Hey guys, Chris here. Tonight we have a story about an elderly couple living in rural Ohio. And there on their farm, late at night, something had been making noise until one night it made its presence known. That's next. Okay, so I am back in my studio for the day. I gotta leave for a trip tomorrow. I'm gonna be gone for a little while, and so this is where I'm shooting tonight. I kind of miss the studio. It's pretty cozy in here. I like it. My studio cabin, so to speak. And for tonight's beer, which is very fitting, we have from the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, Oktoberfest beer. Check that out. That's pretty awesome. They made that just for October, so pretty fitting here. And for the next video after this one, we're going to be doing the Halloween special. So I got a special beer already picked out for that. And I think if I can pull that off, I am going to be doing some camping that night in October of all times of the year. So cheers. That is a good, straightforward beer. I like it. Oktoberfest. Very nice. It turns out that Ohio has the fourth most Bigfoot sightings of all the states. It goes Washington, California, Florida, and then Ohio. Really interesting. I have not done many or even any stories about Ohio, so I'm really interested in knowing more about the state, the Buckeye State, and find out what kind of experiences people have had there. Sounds pretty interesting. So our story takes place in Medina County, Ohio, near the small town of Valley City. A little less than 1,000 people. Very small town. Looks like a nice place to live. And every year they have the Valley City Frog Jumping Festival. They've been doing this since the 1960s. Looks like they have a lot of fun there. They had like a record turnout a couple years ago. About 4,000 people showed up for this. Story starts in Medina County. And in Medina County, John and Shelley live on a small farm. On this farm, in the back, there's this tall grass and there's this forest, and beyond that is the Rocky River running north of their property. There's also a tributary that coming from the west kind of wraps around that goes to the Rocky River. Real nice place they have. They have fruit trees, a large garden, forest around it, fields, as well as swamps. So in the summer of 2013, at their farm, John was in the backyard on his riding lawnmower tractor. He was cutting a few rows. He was near the back where the grass turns into this tall grass, and then it goes into this thick forest. And he's making a pass right by here, and he feels something kind of vibrate in his chest. Almost like he heard something. Wasn't sure what it was. He's on a riding lawnmower tractor, and so that's making a lot of noise, so he's not sure if it's a tractor or something else. Goes past, comes back, does the next row. As he's coming by, he hears it again. This time he shuts the power off to the lawnmower, and he can hear this sound for 2 or 3 more seconds. And it's this deep, low growl that he hears. And he can feel it in his chest, but this time he can hear it now. And it's towards the tall grass, maybe in the forest, he's not quite sure. He knows there's no bears in the area, not mountain lions, and it startled him. Kind of felt concerned, like, what is that? Continued cutting the grass, finished the job in the backyard, and he went in and told his wife, Shelley. Explained exactly what happened, what he heard. She listened, and then she said, about a week and a half ago, I was in the backyard working at the garden, and I heard something similar. It sounded a little farther off. It was more like coming from the forest somewhere, and that was more towards evening. They both didn't know what to think of it. They made kind of a note of it and just kind of forgot about it. About 2 weeks later, about 1 a.m, they're in bed and they hear coming from that side of the house, the back side where the forest is and the tall grass, sounded like someone walking towards the house, and then it came by the side of the house and came right by their window. And they could hear walking by their window, 1 a.m. in the morning. Continued, it kind of faded, it's quiet again. And the sound came by their window again, went to the front side where it started, it was quiet again. John got up, went to the kitchen, turned the back light on. Didn't see anything, they didn't hear anything else, didn't know what to make of that. It was very concerning for them. They felt like after that they didn't feel comfortable being out after dark. Just this strange feeling, almost a feeling of being watched in their own backyard in the evening or at night. And so they didn't go out much at night anymore, except for quick little trips to the garbage can or whatever they need to do, but they didn't spend any time outside. About a week and a half later, Shelley got up about 3:30. They live on a farm. She was coming down the stairs, and as she was coming down the stairs, she smelled this musty skunk smell, but really bad, like several skunks or something. Got to the bottom of the stairs, took a left, went around, and she turned the light on, and she noticed the window in the dining area next to the kitchen was open. Just cracked a little bit. It was July. Blinds were open, and she immediately closed the window, went over straight ahead and a little bit to her left to the counter to make some coffee, go to the coffee pot. And right when she started putting the coffee together, she noticed the cats were acting a little strange. They normally come out of the living room and are meowing for food, and they're excited to see her because they get fed every morning. They sat in the living room on the couch, not moving, just sitting there. She thought that was strange. Shelley finished filling up the coffee pot. She rotated to go back, finished making the coffee, and right then she was looking straight at that dining room window. And there she saw something large in the window staring at her. It had these yellow eyes. She couldn't see any pupils, but these wet, glossy yellow eyes, and the light from the dining room overhead light was reflecting off of them, and they were staring right at her. They were about 5 or 6 inches apart. She was just frozen with fear. This thing was huge. It filled up 2/3 of the window with this large shape in the eyes. It blocked out the light that was on the barn that was behind it. Shelley was totally startled by this. She was feeling this deep, primal fear, and we've talked about this fight, flight, or freeze. She was doing a version of freeze. She slowly and cautiously started backing up out of the kitchen into the living room, and she saw this thing still in the window staring at her, but now it was moving from side to side like this. And then it looked into the house and looked deep to the left, and then it looked deep to the right, like it was checking out the inside of the house. She carefully moved into the living room and sat down on the couch next to the cats. Had this feeling of numbness come over her body. She was just terrified, too terrified to move. And the window in the front living room was open, and she now smelled that rank skunk smell coming through the front window. She was concerned about it, but she was too afraid to get up and go over and close the window. She sat there in silence, total fear, just sitting there motionless, waiting for the sun to come up. She sat there for about 2 hours until about 5:30, and then she heard her husband, John, coming down the staircase. He got to the bottom of the staircase, took a left, and he looked through the kitchen. He could see her sitting there on the couch, looking straight ahead. And he went into the kitchen and then into the living room and asked her if everything was okay. He saw that she was visibly upset, and he could tell she was scared. He asked her what was wrong, and she told him in a trembling voice what she had seen out their window in the kitchen. He listened to her and he believed her, because they had both been hearing these strange sounds at night. He asked her if she'd be comfortable going outside and looking around. Since the sun was up and this fear was starting to subside in her, she said yes. They went outside. As soon as they opened the door, they could still smell this rank skunk smell in the air, just kind of lingering, not nearly as strong anymore. And it confirmed what she had told him. They walked around the side of the house, looked at the window, and they looked down, and they could see that the irises are crushed, smashed below the window, as well as some other plants, just flattened. They also noticed in the squirrel feeder that was next to the window that all the corn that was in it was now gone. Looked, they didn't see any tracks in the grass, nothing else. She told John about where she saw the eyes up in the window. He came back later with a ladder and went up there with some masking tape and masked it off to get an idea how big this thing was. Later, they had their son-in-law come by, and he stood out the window, and he's 6'4", and took a picture of this to get an idea how big this thing really was. They now know why they don't want to be out after dark. They trust themselves, they trust their gut. And they also know that they're going to close the windows and close the blinds going forward. And that is a story from Shelley and John in Ohio. I could not imagine being in my own kitchen in the middle of the night and seeing something like that standing in the window looking at you and not sure what it's going to do either. Pretty crazy. Wow. So if you guys like stories about the strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, please like and subscribe. You guys know how to do that. I always say that. Also, if you have your own story, if you want to send me your story, I'll take a look at it and see what we can do. And that can be sent to basecampchris2@gmail.com. I'd appreciate that. That is really helpful for my channel. And I also appreciate all the comments that you guys give me. It always inspires me as well. So I thank you for that. And we will see you on the next one. As always, keep hiking.